Welcome, everybody. It is good to see you here this evening on what is in Calgary, a very overcast day. My name is Leah. Welcome to our AC Connect number 6. And I'm sure many of you, generally speaking, know who I am, but my name is Leah Bloost. I am part of the Alberta Early Learning and Childcare Leaders Caucus, and just a general member of AECEA. And yeah, welcome to our Connect session this evening. Go for it, Lisa.
Hi, everyone, and my name's Lisa. I'm one of the board members of AECEA, and I'm excited to be here with everybody once again tonight. And I'm so excited we get to see Leah again.
I know, the camera's working. So exciting. I only get it about 50% of the time, so lucky.
And because I can't see everybody, I'm not actually talking to myself in the computer tonight, so I'm super excited.
A little more conversational.
Yeah.
So just sort of to go over the basics again, if there's anyone who's new, we will be recording this session in order to make it available to others who might not be able to make it, to put on the AECEA webpage. We will have an opportunity during the session for all of you out there to share around some questions about the regulation review and some pieces around reopening and things like that. So just if you want to share, when it comes time to sharing, you should have a little hand on your menu bar. So you can click your hand to put your hand up so that we know you want to speak. Otherwise, you can always post things into the question box. The question box in this version of GoTo only goes to the organizers. So if you want to make a comment, we can read that out to everybody. If you want to ask a question, or we will be asking for some information from you about the regulation review and participation, and we'll ask you to just type that into the question box. And just general reminders about kind of what we're doing here tonight. We started these AECEA Connect sessions during COVID times as a response to the pandemic, to give ECEs and our field a chance to connect with one another, learn about what's happening, share information during this time. So we do want to keep this a safe space where we can give each other respectful feedback or information and prioritize connection. And especially because things have been moving so quickly over the last few months, we want to acknowledge that we don't have all the answers, but we do our best to sort of collect people's questions and to respond to that either through AECEA's website, book, whether we can respond directly on here, and just to get information out there to people. Oftentimes, you guys have much more information than we do, considering that you're sort of on the ground, especially as programs are reopening and everything. So we really want to use this as an opportunity to share and build that connection with one another. So we do have a little agenda for this evening. We'll get some updates from AECEA about sort of what's been happening, what some of the work being done right now is. We do want to talk about the regulation review, the consultation process, sort of have an overview so we're all on the same page about that. And what we want to share ideas about tonight are really about how are we supporting parents to participate meaningfully in this regulation review. We know the surveys are online, but we want to talk about what things are you doing, what's out there, what information do you need and might be helpful for you as you interact with parents, and encourage families to really take part in this. So that's sort of where we're at for tonight. Lisa, do you want to give us the AECEA goods, the dirt?
For sure. Now, past times, for some reason, every time I go in to jump into my AECEA update, my web connection stops working. So if for whatever reason you can't hear me, please, Laura or Leah, just interrupt me and I will turn off my camera so that hopefully the streaming is a little bit better out here in rural Alberta. But before I start with the update, I just wanted to say a big thank you to my fellow board members and to all of the committee members that we have this COVID time has been, hugely stressful for everybody, and it's been absolutely amazing just to work alongside so many incredible people who have, alongside with dealing with their own work and their COVID struggles that they're going through in their own programs and jobs, as well as personal and family, to dedicate time to AC and ALC and the work that we are doing, like I said, on the board and the committees. There's a lot of volunteer hours that go into this. It is purely a volunteer board. AC has only one paid member, our wonderful Laura in the office, to run things behind the scenes, but all the work that is getting done is by volunteers. And I honestly did not realize, as an educator with not very much knowledge of AC before I joined the board, exactly how much went on behind the scenes with the board. I also wanted to say thank you to all of our members who continue to support AC through their memberships. Without you, it is not possible, and being here on Connect sessions and being able to do the work that we do is not possible. So thank you so much for your membership. I also want to thank you for everybody, and we'll get into the table talks a little bit later, but thank you for everyone that has shared our vision of system building and has taken that Getting It Right document into their table talk discussion, has used it as points, and has really helped in that advocacy work. It is huge, and you should all be extremely proud of yourselves for stepping up and being able to take on that challenge. So well done, everybody, for there. Also, thank you for everybody for the supportive comments that we have on social media when we have been putting stuff out. It is, again, we are all in this together, and the more that we support each other and we stand together, the stronger that we'll be. We can't do this alone, and we truly do need to unite for that change. And as I'm just seeing the quote here on the screen, you will never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes that old model obsolete. And I think that's been my mantra for this reg review here. So once again, if anybody would like to support AC's work, please do consider becoming a member. There is a lot of great things that happen. And if you would like to get more involved with AC's work yourself, applications are out for board positions that are coming up. And keep an eye out for those. So what has AC been working on? AC, along with ALC, has created a COVID task force. So this AC Connect session was born out of that COVID task force. And we have a lot of great people that are working behind the scenes as we realize the struggles of COVID are not over. So although we are pushing reg reviews hard right now, we are still having conversations about the COVID situation and how that is impacting programs, as well as looking at what do our educators need through this time, whether they are back at work, whether they are considering going back, or whether they haven't, even gotten the call back yet. I know there's quite a few programs who aren't even open yet. So we are working for you and behind you, and want to support you in any way that we can through this task force. We are also looking at ways to make these Connect sessions meaningful and ways to stay connected, about kind of hearing from each other and the great learning that comes from everybody joining in, like we'll see tonight, and hopefully have some great resources to be able to share with everybody. Something super exciting that Laura has been working very hard on is AC has also launched their members only section. And so this is our vision of having a great resource space for members of AC that they can go and with wealth of resources as a perk for being a member with us. So if you are a member, make sure to log in and check it out. If you do have any ideas of some things you would like to see, feel free to shoot us an email, because we are currently brainstorming ideas of what we would like to include in that members only section. And lastly, AC is continuing to advocate for recognition and quality with this regulation review. We are also looking for transparency with the table talks and for everything that's going on. We are contacting the MLA, Tracy Allard, who's doing the consultations, as well as continue to send messages and emails and letters to the ministry. We have continuing to request a space and a spot at that working group table so we can be a part of that. Although we haven't yet, we continue and try to continue to be the voice of educators. And that's kind of everything that's going on at the moment. But yeah, thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, Lisa. All right. So I thought we would just do, well, we thought we'd kind of review what's happening for the regulation review. We'll give you a sense of what we know, and in the question box, you can give us a sense if we're missing anything or if you have more information that we haven't gotten yet. Like I said earlier, we get the same information that sort of the general public does. So sometimes we don't get all of the pieces of it. So just to kind of give everyone, so we're kind of all starting from the same place, the regulation review opened June 15th. Minister Schultz did strike a provincial task force or working group. Like Lisa said, AECEA's been working to find out and to get some clarity and transparency on who is on the working group, who is asked to participate, what exactly is the purpose of that working group. Those are answers that we don't quite have yet. We don't really know what the role of that group is going to be, and the minister hasn't released exactly who is on it and who was invited and how those decisions were made. As you know, AECEA unfortunately is not a part of that working group, but we do still advocate, and ALC as well, to get a place at that table to represent educators in the province. The table talk session started with MLA Tracy Allard last week. They were initially scheduled to go to the 21st, but I guess what we have heard up till now is that they did not get as much participation as they hoped, and so they have been continuing. However, we did learn that not all centers were even invited to those sessions, so that's disappointing to find out. So we do recommend, since they have been extended into this week, if you email and ask if you can participate. Did I put that email on this slide? I didn't, but I did put it later. Yes, there is an email at the end, but if you email and ask if you can participate, that they can let you know when you can sign up for one of those sessions. The Calgary ones got a little bit hijacked because the information went out online, and then they started telling people, you don't actually live in Calgary, so you can't come to this one. But do follow up and find out, when can I go if you haven't been invited, so that as many people as possible can have a voice at those table talks.
And Leah, I was just gonna jump in quickly, and for those that haven't been able to see that email or kind of the structure of it, and what do those table talks look like? What's going on in those sessions? And so how it worked is everybody that was invited or requested an invite, as what happened in the end, they all got 3 questions. And so how it was working is that everybody had kind of 3 to 5 minutes to go around and answer those 3 questions with their talking points that were directly related to the regulations. After that first round of everybody being able to speak, they were allowed a second round to, if anything popped in their heads, or like closing comments that they wish to share. And from what we have heard, MLA Tracy Allard has been has listened really well and has asked really good questions from it. So a lot of people there's been a lot of positive feedback for that. But like Leah said, if you are able to hop on or send an email if you want to participate, it doesn't hurt to try. We're not sure exactly who or why some people got it and other people didn't, but I would say it definitely doesn't hurt to try, and that's just kind of the format that's going on at these table talk sessions.
Mm-hmm. So we are asking, because AECEA does want to have a bit of a picture of what was said, what opinions were shared, what ideas were shared at those table talk sessions. We don't actually know yet what type of report will come from the ministry about what those consultations looked like and what information was shared. So AECEA is trying to collect as many voices as possible about, what did you share at the table talk? What were the main points that you wanted to make? So that as an association, we have a really good picture of what are people's main concerns in the field. So you'll see in the little green box on the slide, it says use the question box to share whether or not you were invited to participate or did participate in a table talk. And if you did, kind of summarize some of the main points that you shared. And this gives us a position to then advocate from, to say, here's what we heard from people and here's what we know that people were sharing at these table talks. And we can really then say, here's what the ministry said to us, here's what we heard from people, how can we, be a voice for these things to make sure that they're, strongly out there. So
And
if you
also
do that in the question box, that would be awesome. Sorry, Lisa, go ahead.
No, I was just saying the neat part about learning from each other, and through my personal work, I was able to attend, and it's so neat to be able to sit around the table with and hear different perspectives, because that truly does. I have someone in my groups, we always talk about the story and the power of the story, and being able to hear everybody's story and the trajectory that they come from, and it really does put the big picture. It takes off those blinders of my program, my center, my area in the field, and really just show the big system that's out there. So kind of fun would be to, like Leah said, when you use the question box, what we'll do is we'll compile all of those, and just something fun for our AC Connect session, we'll send it out to everybody to hear what were some of the things that were talked about, in case I know I'm very curious to hear what went on in other sessions, and I'm sure others will be too. So once you share those, we'll collate them all and then send them out in a little poster format or something like that.
Mm-hmm. And it does, as someone in our question box right now has said, they weren't invited to participate, but they will be sending an email. So definitely do that. If you didn't get an invite or you weren't able to participate, feel free to send an email. And like I said, I forgot to put it on this slide, but there's several emails you can do that to, and we'll put them up at the end for sure. So I guess the second part of the consultation is the surveys. So the 3 online surveys, and those are available online, and then AECEA has sent out lots of information about them. They've been, the links have been sent out on Facebook and Twitter through various organizations. So there's a parent caregiver survey, and in that survey, there is an option that you can choose that you are not currently a parent or caregiver, but you have an interest in this topic. So one of the concerns sort of when these initially came out was that there isn't a space for people who are sort of in those in-between roles, or who are interested in the sector or adjacent to the sector, post-secondary instructors, coaches, things like that, the pedagogical partners. So in the parent caregiver section, there is an option for not currently a parent or caregiver, but I have an interest in this topic. And that might be a space if there's a grandma and grandpa who pick up a child regularly from your center, they can still fill out the survey. If there's, aunts and uncles or babysitters or other people that want to be involved, there is a space for them. The second survey is for owner operators or directors. And again, there's an option in that survey that says representative from a stakeholder organization. So that's another space where people can kind of click that to let the ministry know, this is my perspective as I'm filling this out. And then there's the survey for educators. So I would say, I've been encouraging people to fill out as many of those as make sense for you. So if you are a parent and an educator, fill out both. If you're in the classroom and you run a center and you have a child, fill out all of them. But just to make sure that they're hearing voices and many different perspectives on it. And again, as a mom of a young child and an ECE, I might look at it from different angles, but still have something to say for both of those things. So, and we were happy to see that the surveys are open until July 15th. We were concerned it would only be that 1 week, but there is a whole month. So that means there's time for people to do that. And it also means, and part of the reason we did this session is that we have a bit of time to think about how can we support parents, caregivers, people who have an interest in this topic to speak knowledgeably about this, and what resources are we already using and have at our disposal, and is there a bit of space if there are resources needed that AC could collect a few things to put out there for people. So we have a bit of time to do that, and that's sort of the purpose of our session tonight, is to really make sure that we have an understanding of what's happening and we can support others to participate in this process of the review.
And I think also
go ahead, Lisa.
Sorry, Leah.
No.
That email that Leah was speaking about, that's also a great place to send your feedback if you don't really feel like any of these fit, or there's not enough space for you to get out and say what you want to. it's important that you, part of the advocacy work is being able to stand up for the field and to yes, talk about and kind of fight for what you believe in. So that email that will pop up on the screen here in a little bit would be another great space to send your feedback and thoughts to.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So because we wanted to focus a little bit tonight on thinking about how to support parents to be sort of involved and knowledgeable about what's happening, I sort of collected the main questions out of the parent survey. So these are sort of the heavy lifting questions out of the parent survey around what they want to know from parents and families and children. So the first one is around difficulties or red tape that they might have experienced when trying to access childcare. Asking parents how they define quality childcare, and this is a piece that we want to support parents to have a really good understanding of. And the last AC Connect session, we heard a lot about that, of how do we help parents understand what quality care is and what that really means in our field and what we're actually doing with children on a day-to-day basis and why that counts as quality. The third one, what expectations do you have when it comes to safety? And Minister Schultz talks about safety a lot, so that's in there, but sort of I'm glad to see it's differentiated between quality and safety. What factors do you consider when choosing a childcare provider? So, and I sort of paraphrased a bit here because they gave a little more of an explanation, and really what they were looking at was, factors like safety, well-being, development. So how do you choose a childcare provider? And then the last big question they're asking is, if you were looking for a particular program or support, what challenges did you encounter, if any? And again, in their little descriptor preamble to this, they mentioned specifically things like disability, language, or cultural programming. So looking at programs that really fit for children with particular needs or families with particular preferences around the childcare program they might access. So if these are sort of the big questions where parents are going to have the ability to put their voice out there and their ideas out there, these are kind of the things we wanted to brainstorm about tonight. So we're going to, take the hands up and for questions and comments right away here to think about, and, to have you share with us, what are you doing? And the next slide kind of asks some questions about that, if you don't mind switching, Laura. But, what strategies do you use, have you used, are you already using to educate parents in regards to quality care? How have you or might you encourage parents to participate? And what else might you need to do this work? So thinking so we can share with one another what's already happening and what resources are we drawing on. And then what else might you need? And then our goal is, after this session, is to kind of put that all together and make that available to you so that we can kind of draw on one another's resources in how we're doing that work. And then what else might you need? And then AC can kind of take that back and say, are there other things that we know about or that we can create to support this happening around the province, so that we can really have parents feel like they can make a meaningful contribution to this and really contribute to this work.
And I think it's also about, creating those allies with the parents too. I think the parents have a very loud voice and a strong voice. And if we are able to create allies with them and show them what the importance of that quality is, and that importance of play-based education, and all of this, we can really help move some of our asks forward when parents are more informed when they're taking the surveys.
So I will attempt to do the unmuting process. So if you want to make a comment, feel free to put your hand up and I will look through. If you want to add your comments into the questions, we can read those out and collect those. So what are you doing, or strategies are you using to support parent participation? And I will just go through our hands. So Fatia,
I can.
You can do it?
I can do it.
Yay, brilliant.
Just excuse my cursor going all over the screen because I think the
It sounds good
attendees can
for
see that.
technology.
Okay, so how this will work is I will call out your name whenever we are ready to unmute you, and then ask if you have any comments or questions to make. From there, if your question is answered or if you don't actually have a question, we just ask that you lower your hand by clicking the same orange hand button. And we will start with Wendy Johnson. You've been unmuted if you have a comment or question to make.
Hi, we use Remarkable, which is a computer contact for our parents. What we're finding really challenging right now is as we open up and more children are coming back, we're not allowed to have the parents actually in the room and exploring changes and seeing what the kids are doing. And so that is just been our really big challenge right now. The kids are welcomed, they're loved, they're adored, they're, yay, you're here. And the parents are, here, sanitize and leave. And, so we're having a real challenge with just letting the parents know that everything's okay. And they're coming around, and they knew it was going to be a challenge. But any suggestions anybody has would be absolutely wonderful, because we don't even have the time right now to have those longer conversations that we used to have. And I know that that'll take time and that'll change, but it's just really awkward. So.
Thanks for sharing, Wendy. Those are all really, really great points. And I think both Leah and I looks like are taking notes here that we can use to compile it. So yeah, really, I'm sure a lot of people are on the same boat as what you are. See if we can hear from anybody else.
Yes, thank you, Wendy. Okay, Fatia Lackall, sorry if I mispronounced that. You've been unmuted if you have a comment or question to make. Maybe not. I will put the hand down. Okay, Eileen Perveen Abma, you've been unmuted if you have a question or comment to make.
Yes, this is Aileen speaking here. Hello to everyone. There are actually two things. Number one, the previous caller had mentioned the fact that there has been a bit of a challenge in terms of the disconnect that now seems to exist with parents dropping off children and children having to go into the center without any sort of collaboration with the educator. And I can speak for myself. I've been in early learning and childcare for many, many years. And my two grandchildren are in a program right now that has just opened. And so I am sort of a secondhand in terms of what is going on because of the parents. And today is a fine example of what was just mentioned, that, all right, the little one was dropped off, did not want to leave mom. This is the first time since the opening, and mom was not able to go into the center. And so there was no connection with the educator. The only connection that was there was the person who greeted mom at the door. So that being said, how does a parent sort of shift with this new paradigm that has been dictated, and rightly so? And so my wonder is how, and so that's one question. That's from the parent perspective. I also know from the educator perspective, who now from the back, sort of the scenes in the background, they actually are saying, Miss A, we quite like this because when the child comes in without mom or dad, the educator has beautiful first minute connection with the child without having to deal with any other parent coming in right away to discuss this, that, or the other thing, and suddenly the child is kind of left hanging there or not knowing what to do. There is that one-on-one connection with the child. The educators, from their perspective, they're loving this. But that is not being related to the parent. How does the parent know that the child going into the program is feeling okay? And how does the parent feel okay leaving a child kind of upset, being detached from the parent? So I think that detachment and that harsh separation is certainly something that needs to be discussed. I'm wondering if there should be a requirement or responsibility or an accountability on the part of the program to assure the parents that this is not the program's decision. This is protocol, the decisions based on protocol, the decisions made so that the program can be open for the parents, and that the program will assure the parents that the children are okay. And perhaps in those first 5 minutes or that first 10 minutes, that whether it's Story Park or other sort of media connection with the parents, that the parents see that 10 minutes after they've left off little Sammy or little Sarah, that, oh, you know what? In fact, my child is quite comfortable with his little peers. That is an immediate satisfaction for parents to move on with their day, knowing that they have left the child abruptly, mind you, with someone who is greeting at the door, not even their educator. So that follow-up is there right off the bat. I don't know.
Yeah, those are good wonderings. And I mean, that's something we'll have to navigate as sort of part of a new reality or whatever that is, to just think about how we can assure parents that these things are happening. And I think that's an important piece of this sort of survey process and regulation review is how do we support parents to know and trust that their educators have the qualifications and competencies to manage that process, and then build that communication piece that here's how we're letting you know that. So yeah, thank you.
May I just say one more thing here? Just add on one more thing. Is that okay? So you mentioned something, and I guess that's where my heart is, with parents leaving their children in some ways at what it seems quite abruptly right now. And you just mentioned the qualifications part. I believe that the parents who dropped off their children were okay with it because they knew their educators. They knew the qualifications of their educators. And so they are rest assured, based on past relationship, that this is going to be okay. That's what they left feeling. But if our parents are not left with, and you on your screen previously, you had what are the wonderings, and something was how do parents qualify or define childcare? And in my mind is, are the parents consistently guaranteed, whether they know their educator or not, that the educator who is with their children carry the qualifications as across the board, that there are protocols and expectations by which every educator is accountable for? And I think with this abrupt and with this COVID situation happening now, and with that abrupt separation, if parents don't know their educator, nor do they know the background of the educators, you hope that the background of the educators are high quality, will have the expectations of certification and or education behind them, and all of these things that we believe qualifies an educator. Parents don't really know that. That's just thinking out loud here.
Well, thank you for sharing, Aileen. And I think I was seeing here in the comment box here, Twyla said that they're in the same boat, and that she thinks that parents are feeling left out. And I think that if we want to be the educators that we are and have that ability to turn that lemons into lemonade piece. This survey is such a good way, I think, if we kind of rephrase, reshape it, reframe it, that there is that survey because parents are important and their voice is important. And these are some really great ideas that are coming forward so far tonight about connecting that connection piece with the parent.
And that's something that parents can then speak about when they're addressing, you know, these issues of red tape and quality and safety and choosing childcare as, you know, what does that assurance of qualifications and competencies, where does that fit in here? You know, will they know that they're going to a quality center? Does that factor into their choice of childcare? So giving the parents some of that language around, if I am assured that all of the educators, regardless of what program I go to, have, you know, the qualifications and the competencies and an understanding of sort of what, you know, what quality is and how this can best benefit children, then that might factor into them how they choose childcare. So those are, you know, really important things to think about. Thanks, Aileen.
Yeah, and there was a couple of people here who have said they're using things like Hi Mama to keep in contact. Personally, I've heard from some centers who are also using Facebook, or they've opened up Microsoft Teams is now available for family and in smaller situations. So you're able to create kind of chat groups in there as well. Aside from that, I think it's a difficult area all around in that regard for sure. All right, moving on to the next. Deborah Fair, you've been unmuted if you have a question or comment to make.
Are you speaking with me?
Yeah, you've been
Okay,
unmuted if you have a...
Okay, my name is Deborah. That's why I'm questioning. It didn't sound like that's what you said. So anyways, I just want to premise this. I'm a pedagogical partner, so I'm going to come into this with that kind of background. So this fits into flight with transitions and continuities. So what we're trying to do is to keep things the same as we transition into something different. So there's been lots of ideas already kind of brought up, but one of the things that came out of Boulder School in Colorado was that you go around and you take a video, or you can do it as a social story of what's different about your center. So take a picture of the beginning, take a picture of hand washing, take a picture of saying goodbye to mom at the door, take a picture inside the classroom. What kinds of things are these children going to be doing differently? What kinds of things are the families doing differently? And then you create a social story based on your center that can be sent out to all families so that it can be read not only at home, but also can be read to children in the center, so that, you know, everybody's a little bit more clear about what kinds of changes have taken place. And that allows it to be at home and at the center at the same time. It fits into our goals very well of wellness and caring, like all of that kind of goal within the Flight project of how do we care for each other, because our needs are different than what they might have been before, even, or at least our way of getting our needs met is a little bit different. So those things can be tied in. And certainly you will know who your parents are that are anxious and who isn't anxious. So some parents need that reassurance that their children are okay. Pretty easy now. Most centers, it seems to me, are using some form of Hi Mama or Story Park or Wemarkable. So for those families, within 5 minutes after the child settled down, you send off a quick little picture, says, hey mom, go back to work, everything's fine. Because we do have to be careful about taking so much away to use the technology in a way that all of our time is spent making mom assured that everything's okay when the child's actually now entertaining themselves all day. So to find that balance of how much time we're going to use and how to use that in an efficient way, because most of your families will not need that reassurance. Most of them are actually okay because they've been doing this before and their kids are okay. So, but it is a way to send that information out. And the other thing is that this is a good time to be doing really simple learning stories. So not the more complicated ones, but some relatively simple ones. You take one child every day, kind of pay attention to them, observe what it is that they're doing, how they're reacting to some of the new things that have taken place. And then you just do a picture with a short story that can be shared. Another thing, if you do the video thing, because we have so much technology, that can be put, there's different things that could be videotaped and put on a computer at the front entrance that children could share with the parents, a 3-minute kind of who it is that the educators are going to be, or I don't know, you'd have to get creative with that and put more thought into it. But there can be an opportunity for people to go in and say, hey, this is what you're going to be doing today. This looks like fun. And, you know, you're going to now go with Sally and go and see Susan upstairs. And you're going to play with Play-Doh today. And that looks like a good time. And now everybody kind of separates with that same grounding that parents had before when they were able to enter the classroom and see what was going on. So that's just a few ideas that came off the top of my head as we're sitting here. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Deborah. Those are wonderful.
Okay, so on to the next, and I do apologize for people that I pronounce their names wrong for. I am awful at pronouncing names, so it is nothing against you. It is all my problem. So the next person is Sylvia Jensen. You've been unmuted if you have a question or comment to make.
Okay, am I unmuted?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I had kind of a thought about how to engage parents on this conversation of the consultations. I know not every center has like a board of parents, but there are many that do. And I think it would be great to really highlight how important this regulation review is by maybe calling a specific meeting to talk specifically about that with your board of parents. So I know a lot of those meetings are happening like over Zoom or whatever now, but I think just because that group of people, parents, have maybe a little bit more understanding of the behind the scenes than other parents do, that you could kind of have a discussion around the regulations with them, and then maybe as a result of that share something with the other parents in the center, some additional information. Like, I know for myself, I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around what exactly cutting red tape in childcare really means and what the consequences of that might be. And maybe that's something difficult for parents to wrap their head around too, what the consequences to their children would be of us cutting red tape, whatever that means. So maybe some discussions need to happen around that and what the consequences of that could look like, with a more kind of dedicated group of parents, and then to share outwardly might be helpful. Even for centers that are closed currently and you don't have as much, it might not be in the forefront of their mind if you could kind of call a meeting that way. Yeah.
Thanks for that. And I think, Sylvia, you bring up a really good point about that there's still a role for centers who are closed to take part in this process, that it's not exclusive to people who are open or who are, you know, even for families who are actively or not actively using childcare right now, they still have, you know, a voice, and there's an opportunity for them to say something. So how do we support that process if centers are in contact with families, but families haven't returned yet, to encourage all of them to take part in that? So I think that's a really excellent suggestion and things to think about. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay. And one other thing that I've heard about in regards specifically to the surveys is I've heard of a few organizations that are doing almost, I don't want to say cheat sheets because that sounds awful, but where like questions were asked, what is quality? They are doing up a sheet to describe what quality in early learning and care really looks like. So that could be another option as well, is to go through and see how you define these different areas to help parents kind of get their mind working on those pieces as well. Mhm.
And I think if you are one of those programs that have created the resources that Laura was speaking about, or you find yourself creating those resources that you were speaking about and you would like to share it with everybody, please email it to us and we can send it out, because once again, we are definitely stronger together, and the more parents that are knowledgeable and actively involved in the survey process and know what that quality piece is, like Laura was mentioning, I think the better the system's going to be for all of us.
Exactly. Okay, moving on to the next. Farhana Akhtar, you've been unmuted if you have a question or comment to make. Okay. We will come back to you and try again. Seema Manchanda, you've been unmuted if you have a question or comment to make. You just may need to unmute yourself as well.
Hi, I had so many like answers, which is like actually my questions. But I think after COVID, so many parents maybe lose their trust or anything, because we are the same coworker. We are the same providers, same teachers, and still why parents has so many questions when they're sending their kids to the daycare or day home. Because if they are dropping the kids to the director or another helper, the kids is coming into the same teacher. Like why they don't it's look like now our like respect is totally changed. It doesn't mean we are not doing the same way, we are not taking care of the kids inside if the parents has no permissions to come in. If they drop, if they need us, that's why they're dropping, and then they trust on our work, and they like with the tension free, they can enjoy their work too, because we are there for their kids, for the care like the before we are doing already. Not in the COVID, we are doing the something different. We always there and we are doing. Sometimes this kind of questions make us more moral down instead of the, oh, we are stand for them.
And I think you make a good point, and I'm sure some parents are definitely feeling that way, as even just going into society can sometimes be an unsettled. Are you going down the right way in a grocery store? I know for myself, I even have to question how I grocery shop now, because I have to check the arrows and I'm forgetting things because I need to go down one way, and you know, am I standing far away enough for somebody in the checkout line, or what happens if I have to pass somebody? And so I think that they're just you know, maybe natural reactions that, although it might seem personal, I think the parents are just trying to, as all of us are trying to navigate this new situation. And by no means do I know your situation, you know, personally to be able to speak to it, but I can speak for myself and just saying that even I am unsure about some things that I'm doing. I think on two hands. So one hand is that COVID situation. On the other hand, what comes to mind is that recognizing educators as that profession. So really, you know, back to AECEA's asks and the Getting It Right document, and in those high qualifications to really push this field into a recognized profession, so that hopefully as a society there is more trust in the system and trust in what is getting done. But I'm sure you're doing a great job, and like I said, I can't speak to your situation personally. I just know that there's a lot of you know, I for myself sometimes think I've forgotten how to grocery shop in this challenging time. So my heart goes out to you, and thank you for all the work that you're doing for the children and the families, and these connections are so important to draw on the previous connections that we have formed, but also not to stop forming those new connections with the parents and maintaining those connections. And like one of our other callers mentioned, maybe there are some parents that need that extra connection, finding ways to give them that extra connection during this time and being responsive to that need. And so hopefully the resource that we send out might provide some ideas of places to start.
Yeah, that is the same thing. The place is same, the provider is same, and the center is same. And if they trust, that's why they're dropping the kids. We are very happy. We are going to give them the good care in this hard time. But only the things, after hearing this so many questions, that's why this question came my mind. Why parents have so many now question in their mind before they are dropping their kids, maybe one child, second child, and they have a good relation with the center, and we are the same. This is only after the so many this conversation came in my mind, that's why I just put it on.
I think it's difficult, and even I went to visit one of my friends yesterday that I hadn't seen in a while, and there was this really awkward time where, do you hug? Should we hug, or are we going to stay on the opposite end of the living room for this conversation? So even something that can be so familiar, there's still that adjustment period to that new normal. So like I said, unfortunately, I don't have answers directly, specifically to your situation. I can just pull from, personal experiences of going grocery shopping and having the same grocery store for 10 years, but all of a sudden now I go in and I'm like, where am I going? or meeting a friend that I've known for years. And when we first like, okay, how are we going to do this? What's appropriate and what's not? So I hope that helps. And like I said, thank you very much for all the wonderful work you are doing for the children and the families.
Yes, thank you. One comment that I do want to highlight as well, because I think it is quite important in regards to the regulation review as a whole. Susan Bencini, thank you for bringing it up, says lots of information on the surveys are focused on red tape, but there is still room and we need to talk about what needs to be added, not just taken away. Which I think, especially to do with childcare, and this kind of goes back to Sylvia's point about just being concerned about what red tape is and removing red tape in regards to childcare. So if you do have recommendations, it doesn't always need to be about let's remove this red tape so that more spaces can open, so that more centers can open. It's how can we help build the system for early learning and childcare. And maybe that means that we do need to add a few things, and then down the road we look to remove some of the things that are in place that may no longer be necessary. But I think it's important that if you do have any idea, regardless of what it is, that you communicate that, because this is the one opportunity that we're going to get in order to try to change these at this time.
I think that's a very important, Laura. Thank you for highlighting that from Susan. And I'll just put it out to our audience as well, as if you have a good way that you are explaining red tape to parents, that is quite a common thread that we're seeing here in the question box. So if you have a good way of explaining the red tape to parents, please share it with us if you're willing to share it, because I'm sure there are lots of others that can use it as well. And let's try and navigate what this red tape is. And like Laura and Susan said, add. It's okay to add. Even if they're talking about red tape, if you think something needs to be added, just put it in that you think it needs to be added.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point, because there is such a focus, and it's easy to kind of get distracted by the government's use of red tape, and what do we need to get rid of, but really thinking about, if we're going to build a system, what are the things necessary for that to work? And maybe some of the things we do now are no longer necessary, but something else is necessary. So what does it really look like to make an efficient system that's sort of going to move us towards higher quality and a more stable system of early learning and childcare? So
For sure. So I've got one hand up that I'll try again, and then where are we at for time? I'll see if I can get this, and then I'll try to go back and see if I missed comments up there. So Farhana Akhtar, you've been unmuted if you have a question or comment to make. Okay, we will move on then.
Maybe we can put up that last slide with some of the email addresses on as we go through the, yeah, there we go, through the last couple comments here. If anybody would like to take these down.
So just some more suggestions here about how to share the survey. Tina Gears said that she's put it up on her personal Facebook page as well as on her business Facebook page. That's something I've done as well. I'm not in depth in the childcare field other than my work with AC, but I'm encouraging all of my friends who do have children and those with an interest in it to complete the survey, because this matters to any new parent coming in, because often at some point a child does end up in childcare. So it's good to have as many people's input as possible on that.
I just noticed in one of the comments, Fatia was talking about being in the day home and that's been a really challenging situation too. And I don't want anyone to think that we're just focused on centers. That's who we've heard from today, but we certainly recognize that this regulation review impacts all areas of the sector. The ways in which we're managing reopening and coping with the distancing and all of those things impacts all of us. And she talks about how so many of the families are not coming anymore, and she's done a lot of stories about COVID and posters to support children and families to feel safe, and that's really amazing. And that's really indicative of the types of individuals that are working in that day home sector as well. So we don't want anyone to think that this is just about child care centers, but the preschools and out of school care and day homes are also integral in this regulation review process, because it impacts all of us, and we want to make it equitable for all those areas of the sector. And the whole COVID process has also impacted all of us, so these are certainly relevant in all areas. And all of these things we've been talking about in terms of resources and in terms of surveys, and that's obviously open to everyone in the sector. So yes, go ahead, Lisa.
No, I was just going to say so important, because as we've heard from this COVID time and through these connect sessions and in other avenues, that we have had different areas of the sector that have felt left out. So it's really important that those day home programs, the preschool programs, out of school and childcare centers, everybody get their voice in. So share it among your cohorts, your groups, your networks, because it's important that we in the regulations, it is that cohesive system, because like you said, Leah, these regulations are for day homes, preschools, out of school, and childcare. So we need to have that full picture.
And parents of all of those. I mean, one of the things that the government talks about is choice for parents and wanting to make sure parents have choices. And so encouraging parents who access all of those programs, whether or not those programs are open right now, is going to be really important in terms of the feedback they get as well, so that they have a picture of that parents are using all of these and the types of quality and safety and choice that they want in all of those places, so that we are sort of fully represented as a sector in this process, and not just those who are open or who have remained open, but it's that everyone. And it is unfortunate that in terms of timing, that we're dealing with COVID and all of that, and we're also dealing with the regulation review, but it is where we are at. So Laura's put up the slide with the emails and everything on it. So there's the direct emails to the Children's Services Minister, but then there's also that cs.community stakeholder engagement, and that's the one that goes directly for any of the stuff around the regulation review. So if you want to email to say, when can I participate in a table talk, or, you know, I didn't get an invitation to one, or how, you know, or just email your suggestions on the June 2nd town hall. The minister said she will take anything and everything. If you want to highlight the regulations and scribble your ideas in them and mail them to her, then go for it. So I say we take her up on that as much as possible. And that might be something to let parents know too, that if they don't feel like they have the time, or they're intimidated about taking the whole survey and really knowing how to answer those questions, that they can just send an email to, you know, this community stakeholder engagement address to say, here's my thoughts. Because the minister did say that all feedback will be considered. So if parents are feeling like, oh, the survey is too much, or they're not quite sure how to navigate it, that's another option as well, to just provide that feedback in an email.
For sure.
Do we have any last folks? I just realized we're at 8:03. Oops.
If you guys are okay to take one more hand up, that would be good.
Sure.
Oh, Deborah Fair is saying that the email may have been, yeah, misspelt on the slide here. So community should have 2 M's in it.
Yes, you're correct. Sorry.
Thank you for noticing that.
Yes. We'll put it correctly in other spots.
Okay. So apologies if I pronounced this wrong. Rigby Salu, you've been unmuted. If you have a comment and question to make, you just may need to unmute yourself as well. Okay. So with this, the emails are all up on the AECEA website. But what I'll do is, on the page where we put the recordings for these sessions, I'll list them out there as well. And one other suggestion here from Deborah Fair is to CC Raki Pincholi. So Raki is the Children's Services Critic for the NDP, and she has really been in Early Childhood Educators Corner through this whole process and everything going on. So I will get that email up on the website as well, and then we'll go from there. But I think from here, we're planning to see recommendations of what people still needed, and then we were going to evaluate and see what AC and ALC could do. Am I correct?
Yep.
Yes, and if anybody else has ideas coming out that they wanted to share with us and didn't get a chance to tonight, or something pops in your head tomorrow morning, please feel free to email us, whether it's about what you've heard at your table talk, whether it's about what you've shared at your table talk, whether it's about ideas to connect with parents in general, or connect with parents in regards to the survey. We want to hear it all, and because we do want to compile a document that we can share with you. If you're using documents like we talked about with explaining red tape or highlighting quality, if you are comfortable and you would like to share that with the greater educator community, we would love to have those resources to be able to share with everybody. And I know we do want to be cognizant of time. I just found a quote here that really I think speaks to a child is a child is a child. Whatever program that the child is in, we are here for the child as educators. And so this quote is by Lillian Katz, and it says, each of us must come to care about everyone else's children. We must recognize that the welfare of our children and grandchildren is intimately linked to the welfare of all other people's children. After all, when one of our children needs life-saving surgery, someone else's child will perform it. If one of our children is threatened or harmed by violence, someone else's child will be responsible for that act. The good life for our own children can be secured only if a good life is also secured for all other people's children. So thank you so much, everybody, for the wonderful work that you do for the children, for the parents, for the families. Your educators are absolutely amazing, and thank you for logging on and listening to us talk and sharing ideas. I thoroughly enjoy being able to connect with everybody during these sessions.
Yeah, what she said. Thanks everyone so much for joining us this evening, and yeah, keep an eye out. We'll have another one soon, and in terms of compiling resources, we'll have that available soon too. So thanks so much for spending some of your evening with us, and thank you for the work that you are doing, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Have a good evening.